probably like 5 minutes or so before my heart rate decreases enough and I stop swallowing hard and all that to where it actually like makes sense and sound coherent. So maybe I'll read first, and that'll help me get out of the way and for me to tell my story. But anyways, this is I'm supposed to talk some about God, and I think it's kind of funny that I would talk about God, because if you had told me 4.5 years ago that I would, one, be involved in AA and be asked to tell my story in AA, I wouldn't have believed you. I didn't want to be here when I got here, and I didn't want to do the work, and I didn't want to show up, and I didn't really necessarily know that that this was the answer, you know, and that I needed to get in touch with this higher power thing and all that. But I guess I'm going to read a thing that has meant a lot to me in sobriety, because I struggled with the God thing. And so this is from page 46 of the big book, and it says, "Much to our relief, we discovered we did not need to consider another's conception of God. Our own conception, however inadequate, was sufficient to make the approach and to effect a contact with Him. As soon as we admitted the possible existence of a creative intelligence, a spirit of the universe underlying the totality of things, we began to be possessed of a new sense of power and direction, provided we took other simple steps. We found that God does not make too hard terms with those who seek Him. To us, the realm of spirit is broad, roomy, all-inclusive, never exclusive or forbidding to those who earnestly seek. It is open, we believe, to all men." So, I think I'm a little less anxious right now, and I can start telling my story and tell you what it was like and what happened and what it's like now. And I grew up in a wealthy family. My parents had money. That wasn't one of the concerns. I have an older brother who's 3 years older than me, and a younger sister who is a year younger than me. And I'm a middle child, and some of you already know what that means. But I started drinking. I remember my first drunk. My brother's 3 years older than me, and one of the things that drove me and that I remember as part of my experience growing up was that I always wanted to be cool and to fit in, and to, you know, I didn't want I didn't necessarily, I wanted to win your acceptance, and I wanted to feel that connection, and I wanted to plug in, and I just I wanted this sense that I was a part of something, and I just didn't have the tools to plug in. And so anyways, I was a lot of times doing things and being the class clown and trying to figure out a way where I could feel a little bit of that, just some of that connection. And my first drunk was, alcohol was around my house, and my parents drank alcohol, and I knew that it was important, and it was a part of all the celebrations and, part of dinner time and everything. But I had a little bit of alcohol here and there, but the first time that I really got drunk was when I was 12 years old. And my older brother and his friend thought it would be funny, give me some alcohol, and he poured a whiskey shot, and I drank it. And he poured another one, and I drank it, and he poured another one, and I'm 12 years old, so these aren't the biggest shots ever. I can't drink that much, but in my mind I remember taking 10 shots. I'm sure that it was probably something like 4, 3. My mind exaggerates what the truth is. So I drink these shots, and I don't really remember. Some people, they tell their story and they say their first drunk, it was the best thing that ever happened to them. But I went so quick into that uncomfortable drunk, where the room is spinning, and there's nausea, and I want to throw up, and I kind of stumble. I stumble down some stairs, and I'm trying to turn the alarm off, so that I can let my brother's friend out, and I can't do it, and I'm kind of scared at this point in time. I'm getting real drunk, and my my brother says take a cold shower, and I know that like I'm have like some characteristics of alcoholics because when I hear like take one, like it just registered automatically like 3 cold showers, you know. And I took 3 cold showers, and I took 3 cold showers that night, and went to bed with like the room spinning, and I woke up the next morning and never had the thought like I'm never gonna do that again, you know. And I don't know if that makes me alcoholic, but like it's a really good start, you know. Like to have consequences from the first time that I did it, and like to just be able to automatically, I mean there was no effort involved, automatically just dismiss any consequences as a result of my drinking. That was actually something that my mind was able to do on numerous occasions where bad stuff happened but it just didn't register and it didn't click that somehow these problems are related to my using. And anyways, it would be a lie if I told you that I started drinking every day at the age of 12 years old. It's a progressive disease, and it started out, you know, that I was it started out I smoked weed when I was 12, and I drank for the first time when I was 12, and it wasn't around that much for me, and it wasn't a part of my social scene that much until I hit high school. The summer before I went to high school was when I like really got on top of my drinking and drugging, and started hanging out with people that you know, like it was more socially acceptable at 15 for some reason than 12 to like get drunk on the weekends. And I started hanging out with like a few older people that were doing it, and it was like the best thing that ever happened to me at 15. Like I loved getting fucked up. I mean, it was like, why didn't I start doing this more often when I was 12? You know, like this was like that way that that connection that I was looking for. I felt like I had found it in alcohol and drugs, and like man, I could like be the person I wanted to be when I was out, and I could be the center of attention and like not be nervous, and you know, I could like the acceptance thing like didn't matter as much anymore. And I hear like a lot of people like it's like that feeling of like less than like just kind of disappeared and it didn't matter. And you know, I would be a fool not to like continue to go back to do this as much as I possibly could. And so I progressively get into things that I had, you know, previously in my life. Like I'm never gonna do that. Like I'm absolutely never gonna, you know, like I'm never gonna do, you know, crystal meth or cocaine or mushrooms or acid or anything like that, because the experience of like smoking weed and drinking was just like so powerful that I was like willing to forego like, you know, these like really strong commitments because of like how powerful it was and like how much of like I guess like I mean what it did for me, you know. And so I'm like in this like progression of the disease, and I'm like 15 and I'm in high school, and I start, you know, like I'm making good grades, but I'm like hanging out with like different people that are in my, you know, like upper classes. Like I'm in the advanced classes, but like I hang out with like these different groups of people and try to fit in all these different subcultures that like, you know, I'm still looking for that connection, and still trying to find where I belong, and like I'm never really finding it in the groups that I'm, you know, seeking out. And I think I went through some like interesting phases. I was a punk skater, and I was a gangster skater, and I was a cowboy, and I was a hippie, and I went through like all these phases and like hung out with all these different people. And I mean, I hung out with the, like, you know, when I was a punk, I hung out with the gangsters, and you know, like we had our point of connection, like the drugs and alcohol. Like I could hang out with different groups of people, but like I never really felt like I found my people. And like, man, I was sitting in the meeting last night, the speaker meeting, and I just like, I was sitting in here and in, you know, the other meeting room, and I was like, man, I really feel like I found my people, you know. And like, I have so much like compassion for the person who's sitting in here who doesn't feel like they really fit in here yet, you know, who's still kind of struggling with it. And before I worked the steps, I sat in here and I didn't feel like I was like really here and that I'd like found my people. But eventually, I kind of like went through this process of like listening to people and working the steps, and I really felt like this is where it's at. Like I am done looking for that subgroup and that other way and that kind of thing, and surrender that these are my people. So, anyways, I don't feel like I'm really like connected right now and like really in my story. I kind of feel like I don't know, like I'm not collected and together. So anyways, bear with me. So I'm hanging out with these different groups of people and not really feeling like I fit in, and trying really hard. And that was like one of the things, like I tried really hard, and I was making good grades, and part of that was motivated by the fact that I knew that if I made good grades, I would have my parents' attention diverted elsewhere so that I could do what I wanted to in my free time. And like I talked about before, like I really wanted to get drunk and loaded as much as possible, and free up as much time, get my work done so that I could reward myself. And so I guess I'll kind of skip in because I want to talk about recovery, like what's happened since I've been sober and stuff. I had a like chain of events that like really like kicked in high gear, like my alcoholism and drugs. And I had a girl that moved away, and like it was like the most depressing thing ever for me. She was the one, and she moved away, and that was the only period of time when I drank daily, and kind of like spiraled down from there, and did all the stuff that I said I was never going to do, and did a lot of stuff that I figured would probably be pretty hard to live with later on. And I one night was hanging out with some friends, and it was a night just like any other night. Like I went out with the intention of like getting completely obliterated, like I did every other night, and with the car keys, because like that's what I did. I mean, I drove drunk all the time. Like I had my learner's permit, and I drove drunk with my mom in the car. Like I drove drunk, and that was like what I did. And I went out like one night, and I was drinking Mad Dog 2020 and smoking a lot of weed. And we went out, and I was like, we were gonna leave to go, score some more pot. And there was like nothing out of the ordinary that night. Like it was just like any other night. We were like playing video games and like listening to music, listening to Grateful Dead, and drinking MB 2020, smoking weed. And we went out that night and to go get some more bud, and I blacked out somewhere on the drive to go get it. And I had like two friends with me and one business associate, and I dropped all them off in a blackout, and then I have like a few hours unaccounted for. And then the next report of me is from a toll booth attendant who called the Houston Police Department and said, we have a black BMW going the wrong way on the tollway, and he's going like 100 miles an hour. And then the next report after that is 20 miles between there and the wreck. And I got in a head-on collision, and I figured that I was going probably like 60 miles an hour at least. Like I'm in a blackout. I don't remember any of this. Like this is all from like police reports. But I figured I was probably going like at least 60 miles an hour, and the other car was probably going 60 miles an hour. So it's like hitting a brick wall at 120 miles an hour. And like I really get this like idea of like borrowed time, and like that like when people talk about like being sober and like getting second chances and like getting like to do it over again and like living on borrowed time, and that like I mean if God's not like shot all through that, like I mean I don't obviously know about God then, but I got a second chance. Like the people There were two people in the other car. I was the only one in the car that I was driving, and those two people were hurt. And I woke up in the hospital the next day with a broken collarbone, and like I wake up out of my blackout and I'm in a hospital, and my parents are on both sides of me, and they like tell me what happened. And that was the worst moment of my life. Was like waking up in the hospital to that like bitter, incomprehensible demoralization, and like realizing that like I had done this thing and I don't remember it, and like I mean. There's nothing like looking your parents in the eye and like have them tell you, like, you drove the wrong way on the freeway and you hurt a couple people. So I did not get sober then. I was like, I mean, that's not alcoholic enough for me. My problem was not drinking; it was like drinking and driving. And I just had to figure out a way where I could, like be out on, out on papers and continue to do what I wanted to do. And I left that day from the hospital, and I had a prescription for hydrocodone that I was gonna like fully utilize. And I left the hospital and was out on bail for a while, and continuing to use. And this was like more of my period of like trying to figure out the formula where I could like control it. And like I knew that there were some things that were like out of control about it, and I had like kind of conceded to myself that like it didn't really work, the way that I was doing it, and I needed to figure out a right way to do it. And I had to stop smoking weed because I was on probation, and that was like devastating for me because that was like a huge part of my life, and it did something for me that other drugs couldn't do, and that I like really liked. And I mean, I'm like completely crazy. Like this is the point at which the normal drinker like has some serious consequences because of what they do, and they just say, I mean, I'm 17 years old when this drunk driving accident happened. This is when the normal drinker says, okay, like I'm 17, I'm not of age to drink, I'm in serious trouble because of it, because of drinking. Like I'm going to stop at least for a while until I'm off probation and done with all this. But it says, I'm going to read this. This is the only other thing I'm going to read. But it talks about the difference between the normal drinker, the hard drinker, and the alcoholic in the big book. So moderate drinkers have little trouble in giving up liquor entirely if they have a good reason for it, like drunk driving accident. They can take it or leave it alone. Then we have a certain type of hard drinker. He may have had the habit badly enough to gradually impair him physically and mentally. It may cause him to die a few years before his time. If a sufficiently strong reason, ill health, falling in love, change of environment, or warning of a doctor becomes operative, this man can also stop or moderate, although he may find it difficult and troublesome. And he may even need medical attention. But what about the real alcoholic? He may start off as a moderate drinker. He may or may not become a continuous hard drinker, but at some stage of his drinking career, he begins to lose all control of his liquor consumption once he starts to drink. And that was like where I was at. Like I was in trouble, and I was just like delusional, thinking like I could still make it work, and like I'm completely like I've lost control, but I'm still trying to like make it happen. And so I get sober a year and a half later, and in between that year and a half, there are so many blackouts, and I'm taking Xanax and drinking, and like I'm waking up out of blackouts and trying to assess like what I did the night before to make sure that I'm not in trouble, because I'm like out on bail, I'm facing 2 to 10, and like I don't, I'm drinking obviously, like I'm powerless and I'm unmanageable, and I like won't even recognize it. So my senior, I get convicted the week before my senior year in high school, and I go to the judge, and I get 4 years probation, no license for 4 years, community service, classes, victim impact panel. I mean, like all this stuff, and then 30 days in jail. And so I'm supposed to, wait. It's like right before my senior year, so they decide to have me come turn myself in after I walk across the stage and graduate. And I make good grades, and I end up like graduating in the top 10% of my class. And I walk across the stage, and then I go and turn myself in a week later. And I go out for that last hoorah drunk, like right before I go into jail, and end up like blacking out and waking up in a guy who's actually sober now, his apartment, was dealing drugs and like just completely crazy. And I wake up in his apartment, and then the next day go turn myself in for jail and spend a month in jail. And the whole time I'm in jail, I'm dealing with this like obsession. Like I want to get like drunk and loaded. Like when I'm not drinking and getting loaded, like I want to get loaded. And it's like something I think about all the time. And I get out, and it's like the first thing I want to do, and I continue to go back and just do what I do, and I decide actually I'm going to college. I'm like so scattered right now. I hope some of this is like somewhat coherent. But I decide to go to college out of state because I figured that the state's going to let me do it on probation, and I figure they'll have less tabs on me, and I'll be able to do more of what I want to do, and have less drug tests and stuff like that. And so I go away to school to Memphis, and go to Rhodes College, and I'm at school there, and I'm like not drinking daily. Like I'm thinking about it every day, and like I want to every day, but I know that I can't, like make it work with probation and school and everything like that if I drink every day. And so I'm like doing school like Monday through Friday, and like Friday night I'm like making up for it, and like wake up Saturday morning, and the pattern like at the very end of my drinking was like it was just like boring, but like the same stuff over and over again. Like Monday through Friday, like try not to drink, and then Friday like big blowout, and wake up Saturday with like the hangover that like non-alcoholics only have once. Like where you wake up and like being sick and dehydrated is like only the beginning, and I get like nothing done on Saturday, even though I have all these papers due and everything. And I think like for like weeks on hand, the only thing I got done on Saturday was like my laundry, and I would like do my laundry and like be kind of like proud, that I got my laundry done. And so I wake up on Saturday morning, and like this is like the end of my drinking. I didn't even like realize this until I had 2 years sober, but like I kind of like spotted that like alcoholic pattern, and like as if the like accident and everything like didn't like show me enough. Like I saw that on Saturday morning I'd wake up after Friday night drinking and like drank way more than I had planned on drinking, got out of control, and I'd wake up on Saturday morning and be like, I'm not going to drink tonight. Not like I'm going to stay sober for the rest of my life or anything like that, but just like I'm not going to drink tonight. And I'd mean it. And I'd get a little hydrated, and my stomach would hurt a little less, and I'd have that obsession working in my mind. And while the obsession was working on my mind, and I'd go drink Saturday night and just be like, oh, I changed my mind. Like this is what I want to do. And I'd drink on Saturday night, and I would fully buy my own bullshit that was what I wanted to do. And so I'd wake up on Sunday morning, and it would be the same thing. And then I'd go through the week, and I'd just do it. And it wasn't like any like big thing like that happened that like really brought me down like so much. I did have one night where I blacked out, and I think I was in this dorm where I used to date a girl, and so I think I was probably trying to get back with her. But I got found by a resident advisor who found me in the girls' bathroom peeing, and I guess I was like kind of sly even in blackouts, because like I knew that guys stand up to pee obviously, and girls sit down, and so when I got busted, I was sitting down peeing. It might also have been that I didn't have the best of balance at the time, but it was like. She looked under the stall and saw some big dude feet, and she, confronted me, and she said, are you a student here? No. Are you going to tell me your name? No. What are you doing here? Like, I don't know. And she's like, okay, well, if you're not a student and, you're obviously drunk, you're in the girls' bathroom, like, you're going to have to be escorted off campus by campus safety. And, she goes, and that's fine, let's do that. And she gets on the phone with campus safety and, calls it in, and I take off running. I don't know. I do things like that are very uncharacteristic of me when I am drunk and loaded that I don't do when I'm sober, like that. And the problem is that I am unable to call it quits, and come to that point where I'm like, all right, I'm good, I'm taking pills and drinking, and I'm just going for more and more and more. And there's that internal I guess judgment call or whatever that I think normal people might have. I don't have that. And so I do things like that. And I woke up that next morning, and it's funny to tell the story now. It was not funny when it happened. And I woke up the next morning, and I was in trouble for lying. I was going to go for the honor council, and I was convinced that they were going to tell my probation officer. And I had a good lawyer, and I got off real easy for intoxicated assault with a vehicle. And I was like, man, they're going to throw the book at me. They're going to tell the Texas what's going on from Tennessee, and I'm going to go to prison. And so I woke up that next morning, and I walked to the hallway bathroom to throw up, and this guy told me what happened and what I did, and he was laughing about it. It wasn't funny to me, but he was laughing about it. And I went back to my room, and I conceded to my innermost self that I was going to prison. Not that I was an alcoholic, but that I was going to prison. And I don't know, too boyishly cute to go to prison. And I wouldn't have done well there. And I was having lots of problems with anxiety too, and so I'm seeing a therapist about that, and we're not talking about drinking and drugging. I don't know how I can go to a therapist and address some problem and not talk about this, but I'm not talking about it. So I go and I go to a next session or something, and she says something about I end up bringing it up, and she says something about I guess her experience, and she had an experience where she used to follow widespread panic, and that was who I was at that time, and that was the in group that I was in, and that she had had some trouble and took care of herself, and really general way, kind of shared her experience, strength and hope, and it kind of implanted the idea that maybe I could do something different, get sober or something. And I wasn't ready to do it yet, but it just it planted a seed. And some people are at the conference and man, they're not ready yet, but it's planting a seed, and I really believe that. So I am still trying to make it work, even after this, encounter, and